Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 45 of the Game Changers. Frank, I saw someone like wrote some kind of like a lot of stuff before we start the show. So I don't know who did that, but it
Thank you,
seems that
James. He's one of
yeah,
the
you have.
my favorite people I met on the. He's the best,
Oh
James
my God,
Seal.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's all. We're gonna say a lot about you, Frank, tonight. So thank you, James, for that. Thank you. Tonight is really a special night for me. I want to say happy anniversary to Doug Orth. We've been together for 3 years. I love you, babe, and he's my best friend. And like, I just love you. So that's the
Oh,
only thing
happy
I'm gonna say.
happy
Oh,
anniversary.
happy
Thank you.
anniversary. That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah. Tonight, I'm your host, Carla, joined by my wonderful co host, Hope, with an exceptional guest. Let's dive into today's discussion and insights. Before we dive into tonight's episode, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Evan, Iggy, and JC and the whole TSA crew for their invaluable support in providing us with this platform to engage with distinguished individuals within our community. We invite you to join us as we explore the lives and stories of our guests, uncovering their personal insights, experiences in fantasy football, and much, much more. The Game Changers is not your ordinary podcast. It has fosters and a cherished community, and we are honored to share this journey with all of you here with us this evening. Our guest tonight, he's special. His name is Frank Ammirante. Frank is a renowned fantasy football analyst and writer, known for his insightful analysis and expert advice. He contributes to top platforms like Rotoballer and The Game Day, where he provides weekly mashup analysis and start set recommendations and DFS strategies. Whether you're a seasoned fantasy football player or just getting started, Frank's expertise is sure to help you dominate your league. Frank, he writes with a diverse background in both football and baseball. He's currently a senior sports writer at the Game Day. Before joining the Game Day, Frank contributes to 444 football and rotoballer as well. He's an active member of the Fantasy Football Writers Association and has participated in several prestigious industry contests, including the Scottish Bowl and the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. This year, he will also be making his debut in Toot Wars.
Oh.
Frank's expertise and active involvement in the fantasy sports community make him a valuable resource for fantasy football enthusiasts. Welcome, Frank. How are you tonight?
That was a beautiful welcome, so eloquently put. Thank you very much. A pleasure to be on your show and get to know talk to your audience and discuss whatever it is, fantasy and whatever else.
Thank you so much for coming with us tonight. Hope have an interesting story on how you've met. Hope.
Frank. Hey,
Hello,
Frank.
hello.
So I trolled Frank on Twitter, trolling Frank a lot. We actually met 2 years ago when he was calling David Montgomery a plotter. And he was telling me that David Montgomery is not so good. Don't worry about Gibbs, blah, blah, blah. But now me and Frank are really good friends. We've seen each other twice at the expo. Such a good, how much fun did we have at the expo? I mean, how good is the
Yes.
expo?
Yeah, it's a great place, meet people you've interacted with online, talk football, get to know them more, have a great time. It's honestly, the event is really fun. I highly recommend it. Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, so what I really want to know is, so how I got into fantasy football 7 years ago, actually it's longer than 7. Is it 7? Maybe like 7 years ago. Um, I was with my husband, and he asked me if we could put something up on my computer while we were watching a football game. And he put up on the computer a whole fantasy thing, and he was telling me who to like root for and whatever. And I love football. I'm an insane football freak. And I was watching this thing, and I was watching his points, and I was watching him get excited, and he explained to me that it was fantasy football, and I like freaked out. That was it. I go, can I join now? And he's like, no, you can't join now, but you could join next year. And the next year, then I went ahead and that was it. I was done. I was like, so how did you get into fantasy football? When did you start?
Well, I was always growing up big into sports. First, I was more interested like in watching hockey. So in elementary school in 7th grade, we would do a hockey pool, which is basically fantasy hockey. So we didn't know the sites then. So I would just basically do a draft on a crumpled piece of paper with 12 other friends in the class. And then I would count everyone's points for the night. And, that would be the standings. Anyway, so I always liked, calculating the stats and all this. So once I got into football more in like grade 9 or something like that, we found Yahoo, and then we started playing fantasy basketball, then we did baseball, then we got into football, and then football was like, obviously, there's a reason why it's so popular. It's not only because football's huge in the US, but it's also because it's way more user-friendly game, because it's only like 17 weeks of the season. It's only once a week. You don't have to start your players every day. So from there, we kind of really got into it. We've done that same league that started in high school, which was around grade 10, still today. So that's what, like, I don't know, 28 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I got into playing it. And then every year since, I've been, really into it.
And were you good from the beginning?
Yeah, I've always, like, with sports, like talking about sports, I've always had this confidence, like I think I know everything kind of thing. Like, not that I always be kind of rude about it, but if we're discussing, I have an opinion, and someone disagrees, I'm not going to be like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I honestly think so. I was always like that. So I'd like to say I was always good. Yeah, I always considered myself among the best in playing or discussing like football, things like that, even with my friends.
That's
so
awesome.
You were ranked 6th most accurate ranker at Fantasy Pros. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was good. Let's hope we keep it going this year when I put out the weekly rankings, help you with the start and sit decisions. I do weekly with Scott Engel and even Sam Wagman. We're going to do it again with the weekly spaces on X, where we could answer start and sit questions. It's fun during the NFL season, just an added thing to do.
Cool.
Frank, what motivated you to make the switch from teaching to freelancing as a writer?
Well, so I like teaching. I love the interactions with the students, get to know them. Coming out of school with a teaching degree, and then I would do like substitute teaching and then take on a class for a short period, like couple months. And, I'd have a bunch of group chats with my friends. We'd always be talking sports throughout the workday. So I'm like, why don't I start doing these takes instead of in my WhatsApp group? I'd start tweeting them. So I just would start doing that while I was, substituting for a class. And then I'm like, why don't I start writing? I start off with, a smaller website, and then just kept doing that and then teaching as I do that. Eventually it got to a point where I was freelancing for like 3 sites at the same time while teaching. And then I'd also tutor at night, go to students' houses and help them with homework. And then from there, I just kept growing. And then one of the websites, the Game Day, had a full-time position. I applied. It worked out. And then that's been it for the last 3 years. It's been fun, working remotely. I still like teaching and always have it as a backup if if I need to go back to it. But basically, the real reason I switched, I'm just passionate about sports, and I enjoy writing. It comes easy to me. I don't feel like, it doesn't feel like hard work for me. I like just because I really enjoy writing about sports. So doing something you really like that doesn't feel like work made it an easy decision to try out this full-time job instead of doing my teaching.
So
Lucky, that's beautiful.
what challenges did you face when transitioning from a stable teaching position to freelancing writing, and how did you overcome them?
Well, definitely one of the challenges is obviously a lot more volatile working, just writing it, working from home. Like you you don't know how long it will last. You don't know how sustainable it will be. You don't know if eventually you'll have to go on your own and try to, make an income. I don't know, through Patreon and stuff like that. So it's a little risky in that way. And I feel like if I didn't have teaching as the backup, I'd be a little bit always feeling, on my toes and always, keeping an eye out, making sure that I don't want to be in a position where, sites kind of have to do restructuring and then you have to look for another spot. I want to always have something. And that's why I'm fortunate that I have teaching. But yeah, the challenge is the volatility, to sum it up.
Yeah, that's everyone. That's what I hear sometimes. With teaching, it's something that
Stable.
stable, you have it, but with writing sometimes it's just too much. But it's good that you have a full-time job with writing. Hope.
So what is the worst advice that you ever gave somebody during your start and sits that actually haunted you while you were watching and you thought about it?
That's a good one. Okay. Uh Well, probably if I have to think off the top of my head, it would be something along the lines of benching Gabe Davis, because you know how like up and down he is, and then he ends up having one of his typical monster games. Probably that one against Pittsburgh. We got
3
like
touchdowns?
yeah, something like that. I think I definitely told someone to bench Gabe Davis in that game because previously he had been doing not much. So that's a situation where when you have those really boomer bust types, kind of like you got to resign yourself to the fact that they're going to be so volatile. So just start them. Find a way that you'll be able to start them most weeks. But yeah, that would probably be my worst advice I could think of.
But that's not. I don't. Since we all know Gabe Davis is that kind of guy.
True.
I don't think that that's that bad.
True. Maybe. Okay. Okay, I'll think of one that's worse. So last year, towards the end of the year, when Devon Achane came back from injury, I was a bit too aggressive with like how the Dolphins would use him. I'm thinking like, it's closer to the playoffs. They're going to get him more involved and maybe reduce Mostert a little bit. So
Okay.
I did rank Achane like excessively high compared to, other rankers on Fantasy Pros. And I'm sure I told someone to start Achane over maybe someone who is more stable or secure. And sure enough, Achane's role did not really increase to the way that I thought. So that would probably be the other, bad advice I would say.
Yeah, that's also not horrible because you don't know what the Dolphins backfield. He can get 4, or he could get none, or he can get 1. So that's not awful. I don't think so.
Not too bad.
So who's going to be? I know that everyone on Twitter, and this is like a big question. So who do you think is going to be this year's Puka?
This year's Puka. So the thing is, because Puka comes around that kind of season where a really unexpected rookie just pops off like that. Doesn't come like it comes around like once every 10 years. So to say that next Puka, I don't think they're going. This player who I mentioned is going to go pop off to the same degree that Puka did, but in the sense that maybe they're going later and maybe it could work out. So I got an idea for who could pick. It's not that I'm ranking this player that high, but this player I'm going to mention is in a situation where if it all breaks right, maybe he could get 1,000+ yards. So it has to be a rookie. It has to be someone who goes late in the draft, and it has to be someone really unexpected. So let's pick Jalen Polk of the Patriots. So here's what would need to happen. Drake May would need to take the job right away, and Drake May would have to smash expectations and have like a Justin Herbert type of season where Jalen Polk with a wide open receiver room, there's just Demario Douglas, there's Tyquan Thornton, KJ Osborne. So
Yep.
there's a wide open opportunity for Polk. So if everything breaks right, he could maybe, and if Polk is good, and he did have a good, college career at Washington, maybe he could get 1,000 yards if Drake May, surpasses expectations. So if I have to pick one off the top of my head, that would be a pick for me, Polk,
Okay.
Jalen Polk.
All right. I'm gonna have to maybe pick him a couple times.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it's not something I'm like pounding the table for. You got to draft Jalen Polk. It's just like if you make a criteria of and how he could match a potential Puka, it kind of matches to some degree.
Okay, I could see it.
So we have a couple questions from the audience. I have someone that's asking, Frank, is there a player you just won't draft again because he just hurt you too badly? That's one of the questions I see here.
For me, no, I wouldn't do that because you got to have with this, you got to have a short memory. You can't be too emotional, like, oh, they burned me, I can't take them anymore. If the draft price is good enough, if they're not going too high, you could be willing to take a shot. So a great example of someone who would burn everyone, including me, is Kyle Pitts. So he goes around round 6 now. Kyle Pitts does, but there's reasons for optimism. Much improved quarterback with Kirk Cousins, way better coaching now with Arthur Smith gone. They replaced him with Raheem Morris, who hired Zach Robinson, who used to work for the Rams and work with Sean McVay. So you have more of a progressive type of play caller rather than that old school run the ball all the time type of coach like Arthur Smith is. So in this sense, like, yeah, I'm going to, even though Kyle Pitts burned me 2 years in a row, I'm going to take him again just because the situation is drastically improved. And it's not like he's so expensive. You could take him in the 6th round.
Yep, I'm back in. I'm back in.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. 3rd time's a charm, right?
Although I do get it. If you do want to play it that way, I'm not going to say, oh, that's the wrong way to do it. It's just personally, I don't avoid those who burned me in the past.
So speaking of tight ends, after the top few tight ends go, like the top 6 tight ends go, who is your next player?
So if once George Kittle is gone, Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, Brock Bowers, those types are kind of similar to me and they're bunched up. So what I'll do is I'll just wait in the draft until maybe there's one left of that group I mentioned, and then just take one of those. But to be honest, I do like to pay up and get one of the top 7. So that's Kelsey, Laporta, McBride, Andrews, Pitts, Kittle, and Kincaid. Usually I end up not taking Kelsey, wait a little bit, look for McBride or Pitts or Kincaid, but I want to get from that group.
I like Ingram. For me. I would take Ingram over Kittle for me, but that's for me.
I get it because Ingram got a ton of targets last year. He feels really safe. My thing with Ingram is a lot of his big games came when Christian Kirk got injured. So maybe looking at it now with a fully healthy receiving group in Jacksonville, maybe looking back at Ingram's season, it's a little bit inflated, but I mean, I get it. He's a safe pick, and he's a trusted target for Trevor Lawrence. There's nothing wrong with picking Ingram.
When tight ends get 1 or 2 points when you're playing like that, I think that Ingram definitely should go over Kittle.
You like that stability rather than the volatility.
Well, I think if you're doing where tight ends get 1 or 2 points, I think that Ingram's going to definitely get targeted more than Kittle.
Oh, you mean like the tight end premium? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's different because it's full PPR and it's 1.5 for tight ends. No, I definitely would bump Ingram up in that type of format for sure.
And I still think with Ridley gone, and I still think with how it is, and he's a safety blanket, that he's going to be he's definitely due for some more touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a safety blanket. Like you said, Ridley gone. He's more of a target earner than someone like Gabe Davis. And if Brian Thomas takes some time, the rookie, to get going, Ingram could be a target hog again for sure. Yeah, he's definitely a safe pick.
Yep. I think safe's
Someone
good.
someone in the audience as well is asking, how do you feel about Rico Dowdle?
Okay, so with Rico Dowdle, you have a wide open opportunity and a great offense in Dallas. Everyone thinks maybe the Cowboys will sign someone who gets cut once rosters shrink towards the end of preseason. But I mean, I don't know. They may not. Like the Cowboys went the full offseason without really signing anyone. So it wouldn't surprise me if they just rolled with Dowdle and Zeke. And Rico Dowdle is more explosive than Zeke. I could see it where, Dowdle gets a bunch of catches and early down carries, and Zeke is more of the short yardage red zone back. I like taking a shot on either Dowdle or Zeke because you're just making a bet on a really good offense. They're going to have a lot of opportunities in the red zone, which means a lot of chances for touchdowns. So I'm cool with taking Rico Dowdle. I like it.
Yeah. So, what are some key strategies you recommend for drafting a winning fantasy football team?
All right. So one strategy I would say is paying up at quarterback and tight end. I want to get, you could get a Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. One of those seven. And one of the seven tight ends I mentioned, I'll say them again: Kelsey, Laporta, Kincaid, McBride, Pitts, Kittle, and Andrews. Because most
Yeah.
people are playing in a league where there's like 5 or 6 bench spots. So I don't like to get a backup quarterback or backup tight end. I'd rather use that spot for another, lottery ticket type of backup running back, like we mentioned, Rico Dowdle. So stashing a bunch of those on your bench because you have an elite quarterback and good tight end, it allows you to do that. Like if you waited on quarterback, you might want to take a backup because you're not comfortable with that quarterback as your starter. Same goes with the tight end. If you wait on tight end, you might be forced to pick a second. So I think that's a key way to build your roster, especially in leagues where there's like 5 bench spots, and you always find yourself each week like, oh, who am I going to drop? I don't know. And if you have a backup tight end, it makes it even harder. So why not put yourself in a position where you only have one QB and one tight end, and you're comfortable with that because they're reliable?
So, how do you approach your weekly matchup analysis and start set decisions in that perspective?
Okay, so you want to look at the match. So first, I'll look at you look at the sports book odds. So you want to look at implied totals. That means how many points a team is projected to score. So let's say the Chiefs are -3 against the Ravens, and the overall game total is at 51. That means the Chiefs are projected to score 27 and the Ravens are projected to score 24 because 27-24 adds up to 51. So that's one factor to look at, because if a team has a higher implied total, that means they're projected to score more points. Your player is more likely to score a touchdown. So that's a good bump to give to the player, a factor to look at. Another factor you're going to look at is the team's how good they are at stopping the run and pass. You're going to think about how the game might go. Like let's say that I'm going to think of a game here. Okay, let's say the Bengals and Patriots. The Bengals are 9-point favorites, so they're really expected to win. They're projected to win close to double digits. So that means, it's not really, it might be a tough game for someone like Ramondre Stevenson because the Patriots may be playing from behind. They may throw it less. So that's just an example of how I would bump Ramondre Stevenson down, because the game could get out of hand. It could be a blowout, things of that nature. So looking at the implied totals, how the game script may look, the matchup, pass and run defense. And of course, you're not going to go overboard. Like if it's an established stud, like say Tyreek Hill, and the Dolphins are playing, let's say the Jets. The Jets have an elite pass defense. You're not going to be like, I'm going to bench Tyreek Hill or I'm going to rank Tyreek Hill too low. It's just that he may not go off to the same degree he usually does, but in short, you're going to still start your studs, but you're going to consider some of the variables I mentioned.
Do you believe in a zero running back strategy?
Yeah, zero RB strategy, which for those who don't know is when you wait on running back at least for the first 5 rounds. It could work. It's best worked. It's best used in a league where it's full point PPR, so 1 point per reception, because then obviously that helps out the receivers and the pass catchers get more points. So in that kind of case where you're starting more receivers, where it's full PPR, zero RB is more viable. But the thing is, like in a lot of these home leagues or something, if you're playing on Yahoo or ESPN, a lot of these receivers go later. So it's almost like it doesn't make sense to do zero RB because you can still find good receivers later and take at least one running back in the first couple rounds. But in short, yes, zero RB could work. What you got to do is really stack your bench with those lottery ticket type of running backs like a Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, Blake Corum, Trey Benson. And if it breaks your way and the starter misses time, then your team could really get to the next level. But I don't usually do zero RB. I like to get at least one. That could be like my anchor that I could rely on, like a Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, someone like that. And then wait on my second RB and look for like, Javonte Williams, Tony Pollard, and players like that.
So,
Thank you.
Brees or Bijan?
So
And why?
I love both Bijan and Brees. I rank them above most. Like I have Bijan at 2 and Brees at 3. I prefer Bijan Robinson just because the Falcons' defense is much worse than the Jets, so I think the Falcons will be more likely to be playing in shootouts, and the Falcons play indoors all the time at home. But honestly, there's no wrong answer between Brees and Bijan. I love both. Both running backs are going to get a ton of touches. Both running backs excel in the passing game. They're both explosive runners. They're two of the best running backs in the league. And because, Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb are studs and they're still CMC, you could find yourself seeing Bijan and Brees fall to pick 5, pick 6, even pick 7. And that point, it's just like a home run. So I love both of them. But to sum up the answer, it's Bijan who I prefer.
Same with me. So, what about the chatter today with Algier getting all these touches?
Well, I think you got to be a little careful with like the beat writer reports. Beat writers do a great job covering the teams that they specialize in and that they're at camp and all these things, but they're not used to like projecting total workloads of like say running backs, because the report you're saying, the beat writer said Bijan would get like 16 carries a game and Algier would get 14 a game. That's 30 carries a game.
Right.
No two running backs did that last year. So they kind of inflate what they're saying a little bit in the projections. But if we just take it away as saying Tyler Algier will have a role, yeah, he'll have somewhat of a role. It's not like Bijan's going to get like 100% of the touches, but Bijan Robinson, not worried about Algier. I think he'll still get enough touches, especially in the passing game where he's such a good receiver, where Bijan would still pay off his cost.
If you take either Brees or Bijan at the end of your draft, you try to get Braylon Allen and or Algier?
For me, no, because I mean I like Braylon Allen. He's getting a lot of hype in camp, and Algier, we've seen what he did in his rookie year. But for the most part, I don't take the backup on my starting running back because I'd rather take a shot on another backfield. Like instead of if I have Bijan, maybe I'll take Braylon Allen. If I have Brees, maybe I'll take Algier. That way I could get both. The one time I will take a backup to my starting running back is with Kyren Williams. And that's just because Kyren Williams has dealt with injuries throughout his career. I like Kyren Williams a lot, but he's missed time. And if Kyren did miss time again, Blake Corum would step right into that role and smash. So that's a one time I would take the backup. So I wouldn't take Algier if I had Bijan or Braylon Allen if I had.
I sleep way better at night having my own handcuff.
Yeah, I get it. It's comforting.
Way better. I mean, I like to try to get another one, somebody else's as well. But for me, if I'm gonna spend a high pick, like one of my first, if I'm gonna spend all that money on my first guy, I'm definitely sleeping better at night.
No, I get it. I like it more if there's more bench spots. If there's only 5 bench spots, it's a lot harder to do. That's the thing.
Yep.
So, Frank, I hear a lot about injury prone. What's your stake in that? Do you believe that a football player is injury prone, or you don't believe in it?
I do believe that some players are more prone to injuries than others, but I don't believe in just totally passing on them in fantasy football just because of their previous injury history. What I mean is, like, if their draft position is low enough, if it's not too high, I'll kind of deal with the fact that this player's been injury prone. For example, like Christian Watson has missed time quite often throughout his young career, but now he goes like in the seventh, eighth round. So if I need a receiver and the other receivers I like have been taken, I'm willing to take a shot on Watson despite his injury prone history. So I don't fully ignore players just from being injury prone, but it does exist, I would say. Like, look at my old boy, Rashad Penny.
Oh, poor
Yeah.
guy. We all wanted him to be something and just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
sucky for him.
that sucked.
So, what's the most surprising or unexpected fantasy football tip you've ever given or received?
Most surprising tip that I've ever given. Well,
Or received.
thinking because it's a good segue. Speaking of Rashad Penny, when 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, when he was with the Seahawks and he was given the starting role because there was injuries. I gave a tip saying to pick up Rashad Penny and start him against the Texans, and that was right before he just went absolutely off when he was running like crazy and he won leagues. So that was the favorite tip I ever gave, and it was surprising because like I suggested it, but I didn't think Rashad Penny was gonna go perform at the level that he did that season. He was running, I think he had back-to-back games with 150 rushing yards, something like that, something crazy. So not only was that my favorite, but I was surprised that it worked out that well. So that would have to be the one I'd pick here.
That's nice. Hope.
So my bestie has a question. He wants to know your stance on Kamani Vidal.
Oh, Kamani Vidal. So a week ago or something, when there was one beat writer who said that Vidal maybe wouldn't make the team, I was a little bit worried. But then this past preseason game, Vidal looked really good and he was getting a lot of positive reports out of camp. So I think there's a great chance Vidal would make the team. And if Vidal does, a lot of people liked him as a prospect and felt he was a steal for the Chargers. And, Gus Edwards is he's decent, but he's never been the type to be the only running back in the backfield. And J.K. Dobbins, coming off the Achilles, we've seen how many running backs have struggled or taken a long time to really regain their form off that injury. So it's kind of a wide open opportunity for Vidal. And you look at the Chargers, their offensive line is so improved, bringing in Joe Alt,
Yep.
Greg Roman, and knows how to run a good running game. Jim Harbaugh wants to run the ball. So Kamani Vidal is a good pick at the end of your drafts.
So you like Gus Bus?
Honestly, if I'm targeting that backfield, I'm probably going to take Vidal at the end or Dobbins if he fell a lot. Like Gus goes a little higher than both of those, Dobbins and Vidal. So I end up not taking Gus.
I want to know about 10-team leagues, which are my home league, which I'm getting ready to do. I want to know some advice on that. I want to know, it's a little different because everyone's reaching really like one of my friends told me she wants to take Patrick Mahomes in the first round, and someone will. So what's your advice for when all this hoopla is going on to try to get the best team when you are drafting in a 10-team league with all that stuff? What would you do?
So like you said, the tough thing with 10-team leagues is everyone's team looks good. So how do you separate yourself? Well, you want to swing for the fence, try to hit a home run at every pick. You don't want any security. Like you don't care about if a player is secure.
ADP?
No, you could still care about ADP, but like say someone like let's say, Deontay Johnson's a good value, but he's not going to really explode and like lead the league in receiving yards, something like that. So you might stay clear of a guy like that and go for.
What? You don't even go there. Deontay Bay is my guy. So
No, I like him a lot, but for 10-team, because he's more of like a a floor type of pick, that means that he has a high, he's safe, but he's not someone who's going to just blow the doors off. So someone like that, you would prefer to take in like a 12 team league. But 10 team, you want to just swing for the fence for a home run. And one thing you have to do in 10 team league is try to get an elite quarterback and elite tight end. I know I said it for all leagues, but it's especially true for this. That's the way you could stand out, because a lot of other your league mates might be like, oh, I could get this QB later, but you want to try to get the QB and tight end that score the most. So try to get like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson. And then tight end, go right at the top. Get Laporta or McBride or someone like that. So don't wait on quarterback, tight end.
So what rounds, like for instance, grabbing a QB, okay, so grabbing the QB and the tight end, what round would you go ahead and grab them at?
Maybe instead of taking one of the elite quarterbacks in the third, maybe I'll take them in the second, because I know even though it feels like a reach, you're still going to have, good running backs, because it's 10-team league. The player pool is smaller. So probably second, and then tight end, maybe I'd even go QB second round, tight end third round. Just lock them in elite.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
It's tough.
I'm not used to 10-team leagues, but yeah, that's what I would definitely do.
So Caleb versus Jaden?
All right. So originally I liked Jaden Daniels more. We're all enamored by his rushing upside. And of course, I'm a Commanders fan. So, I get it. But I flipped it to Caleb Williams. It's really just because Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterback prospects in recent memory. He looks great in preseason, throwing on the run. He's mobile too. He could rush for 400 yards. And, look at the receivers he's got. He's got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. Look at the Commanders' weapons. Just Terry McLaurin. Like, Jahan Dotson's struggling. It feels like he's falling out of favor with the new coaching staff. Like, they don't have as many weapons in Washington. And Washington's offensive line isn't good. PFF releases position group rankings every offseason. That's Football Focus. They got Washington like 26 offensive line, and the Bears are improving. They got them 13th. So better offensive line, better weapons, all this.
So what about, I know that you think that you should draft an elite quarterback, but what about if you went with Caleb and Jaden and you had them both and took all really good players first and didn't go ahead and grab your quarterback in the second round, third round?
I get it, because you're going to have so much depth, but the thing is, you're going to run into situations where you're going to have let's say you have someone like Chris Godwin, and you have someone like T. Higgins, and someone like Devonta Smith. Like, you're going to have lineup decisions that are going to make you pull your hair out. How are you going to know? Like, it's tough to decide who to start. So I like locking in that elite quarterback and tight end, because you're still going to get good running backs and receivers, and you won't have to run into those tougher decisions. You know what I'm saying?
It's so hard for me to pass up on the stud wide receivers to grab an early quarterback. That's just for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for you, then maybe just wait and take Kyler Murray then.
Yeah. Like, that's kind of because I think he's got just as much upside as the top guys.
Yeah, so he does. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to take you a little bit away from football for a bit. So balancing work and personal life and fantasy sports, how do you manage it?
How do I manage it? Well, definitely sometimes, I get too into this and like tweeting and writing and stuff. So sometimes I definitely have to learn to scale back a bit, so that I'm, not, I got to give attention to my girlfriend more and stuff. Like, I do, but like, there's obviously sometimes, she's like, what I'm saying. So that's a challenge for sure. So
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So that's obviously a challenge. You don't want to be too caught up in this. It's fun, but there's obviously more important things in life. So
I agree. Is she
keeping
into
a balance with that? No, not at all.
So she doesn't like it, but
No, no, she. It's not that she hates it or anything, but she doesn't watch it, and she's not really into sports. So, uh, of course, making sure that you don't spend too much time of it is important for sure.
okay. So, what's the funniest thing that ever happened to you during a football game? Especially that your girlfriend doesn't, maybe watch with you or something. Tell me something funny that happened to you in a football game, or like you were
Um,
watching with her, maybe, or without her. Can you remember something funny that
I got to
happened?
think on the spot. That's tough. Da, da, da. Well, it's not even that funny, but sometimes you yell at the TV a bit, and she's not used to it. She's like, "What's going on down there?" Like that kind. Like she's not into sports, like really at all. So she'll be like, "What?" So it's not even that funny. But if I have to
Funny.
think of some, if
I
I have to
laugh
think
at
of
it.
something, if I have to think of something at the spot where I'm like, "Yeah," like that, and then she's like, "What's going on?" Yeah, that would be one I could think of here.
Oh, that's really that's really amazing. I love that. So, what's the one thing about you that no one else knows, and you are willing to share tonight?
Not, something about me no one else knows.
That you're willing to share on the Game Changers tonight?
Let's think of something here. Well, before when I was younger, I went all like partying phase. I went to like Ibiza and Spain and Amsterdam and all these places. So
That's nice. Got it all out.
you might not like think like I've done that because I write like fantasy and all this. But yeah, I used to do that. Still travel a lot, but yeah, that would be a one fun fact.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
It's really fun.
Got it all out.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. We went to Barcelona, watched a game there. Messi scored 2 goals. It was good.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I used to watch a lot of soccer myself because I lived in Lebanon, and we are
Oh,
so much
nice.
basketball, and but like European football, not the American
Oh
football. So
yeah, lots of
yeah,
Lebanese people where I live. By the
really,
way,
that's
fun
amazing.
fact. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing to know. So you want to tell us a little bit about the expo, maybe for both Hope and I. How many years did you go to the expo? And like, I did not see you this year. So tell us a little bit about the
Yeah.
expo.
So, one quick thing before I say it, I mistakenly didn't realize that my computer is almost dying, and I don't have the charger in the room. So if I go like this, I'll run out and get it. It's at like 6%. But
Okay.
Fantasy
We can.
Football Expo, I've gone 3 years in a row. It's been a lot of fun, talking with peers who write. I've come with a couple of my friends. This year I came with 2 of them. Previously I came with one. And even though they don't make content, the 2 friends I have, they still had a good time. And I could really say coming to the Fantasy Football Expo, I've made friends, that are not just friends with fantasy football. Like I'll still talk to them. So it's a good experience, and plus if you love football, what's more fun than talking with a bunch of other football crazed fans. So it's a lot of fun checking out the Hall of Fame. They put a great event. Bob Lung and everyone does a great job. uh I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've met Hope there. I met her. This is my first year. I've met Hope and JC and Iggy and the whole crew. This is my third year too. And
Ah,
I
nice.
was not into fantasy football either. So I'm still not into fantasy football.
Yeah,
But I'm learning
that's
so
okay.
much. So thanks to you guys, I'm learning a lot.
She's
Oh,
she's it's smart. It's smart that she's not into fantasy football. So, this is what I want to know. Do you get upset when you're losing your leagues? Does it ruin when you're watching football and it's all going on and you're having a great time and you know that you're losing some of your favorite leagues? Does it ruin your football experience?
You feel a little, the times where I feel the worst is when like I make a last minute decision benching a player, and then it ends up being way wrong, and then it causes you to lose, or like you lose on the last play or one of the last plays on a Monday night. Basically, I'll get upset about it. Like I'll be like, oh, like kind of like that for a little while, like I don't know, 15-20 minutes, and then kind of get over it. But I get it. A lot of people, it could, it's fun. It's fun to be competitive. So you lose, it could affect, like you'll get a little upset, which is fine. But for me, just for a little bit, I'm a little upset, and then I just move on.
I wish I was like that. I can't, I'm going to try really hard. Well, I do this new thing where I don't look at my phone until nighttime.
Or that's a challenge I have, actually. I should interject.
If I know, because I kind of know what's happening, because we have TVs around the entire house. So I watch every single game.
Yeah,
so
I remember you saying.
I know if I'm doing good or bad. I already know, basically. So I don't have to really look, but it definitely helps a lot not to look at the phone.
Yeah, so that's a challenge I have. I always look at the phone. I'm like, if I'm watching one game, I'm looking at what's happening in others, and that's something I got to stop doing. I want to enjoy the game more than I'm going to take your advice on it. And even though I like Red Zone, I kind of like watching one game more. So maybe what I'll do is just commercial break, look at the phone, something like that. Or like flip to another game, not watch a commercial, but, not look at the phone as much.
I want to know your guys for this year.
Okay, my guys, I'll say one QB, one running back, one receiver, one tight end. I'll do it concisely. Let's see. CJ Stroud, quarterback. So as a rookie, he paced at 4,700 yards, something like that. They added Stephon Diggs. They got a stud trio of receivers with Nico Collins and Tank Dell to go along with Diggs. Everyone says about CJ Stroud's lack of rushing, but his season high for rushing yards last year was 47. And, he's not a total zero. He could rush for 250, maybe 300 with a couple of touchdowns. It's not like Tua or Goff that we're talking about, who basically give you zero on the ground. So I'm not too worried about that. I just really think this Texans offense could really pop off, and Stroud could throw for 5K. Running back, Javonte Williams, he goes late enough that he's a nice value. Javonte Williams has his burst back. Last year, he was slower because coming off a ACL, very serious knee injury. And Bo Nix likes to check the ball down a lot. And I think Javonte will bounce back, and he's a great value. Receiver, Jaden Reed had a great rookie season, was top 25 in fantasy points per game, scored 10 touchdowns. He's a weapon. The Packers have said, you could see on Coach Speak Index, which is a great Twitter account, they've spoken, the coaching staff has, about needing to manufacture touches, get the ball in Jaden Reed's hands. And I know people are worried it's a crowded receiver room, but there's a legit chance Jaden Reed's the best one. And we saw how good Jordan Love played in the second half of last year. The Packers offense could legitimately be one of the best in the NFL. So I want a piece of that, and Jaden Reed is at a nice price. And tight end, we'll go with Kyle Pitts. Like we said earlier on the show, they're going to play at a faster pace. Kirk Cousins there. They're going to pass it like 100 plus more times than they did under Arthur Smith. And Pitts put up 1,000 yards as a rookie. I think he's healthy now, and he's ready to bounce back. Those are my guys, I'll say.
So Jordan Love, don't you think that he can be a top 10 quarterback for sure?
Yes, definitely.
Top 7 quarterback for
sure.
Yeah,
he can. I have him I have him ranked 9th on my rankings that you could find at thegameday.com. It's just personal preference. I like to pay a little more and get one of the 7 I mentioned earlier. But if you end up with Love as your starter, totally fine. He's got a lot of upside. That's a great offense.
Yep. Love that. Like those. So go ahead.
What trends do you predict will impact your industry in the next 5 years?
What trends? Well, AI for sure. We could see. I don't know too much. It could have an effect, in terms of how websites rank on Google and things like this. Maybe it's good to if you're into fantasy industry, branch out to also write about betting, because that's a big industry too. You want to be diverse in your skill set. Also, you could do like even promotional writing, which is what I do. Like it's like writing sports book reviews, which for betting and stuff like that. Basically, it's important to have a diverse skill set because with AI and all this, and the changing industry, if you want to be able to work fantasy football, you got to be multifaceted, I would say.
And how do you handle failure or setbacks in your business, Frank?
How do I handle failure? Like,
And setbacks.
well, you just gotta like let's say I have to go to another site, let's say, and that would be a setback for sure. The way I would handle it is, I'd be grateful that I had the opportunity work. I would try to keep a positive mindset and be appreciative of the time and cherish the time that I had doing that full time, and then feel a little down about it, but then also look to the future and think about what I'd do next and how I could do it. So basically, in short, any drawback you want to, obviously you're going to give yourself time to feel down about it, but you want to, you only appreciate what you had and like appreciate that it happened and then move forward.
I agree. 100%.
That's 100%. I totally agree as well.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know about Romeo Dobbs.
Yes.
Romeo Dobbs, to be honest, I do like Reed or Watson or even Dontavian Wicks more because Romeo Dobbs has played like most snaps and hasn't really put up a lot of yardage, but he did have that big playoff game. But if it's a really deep league or if it's like best ball, if you play on Underdog or Drafters, which is great. I just started playing on Drafters actually. He's a good pick, Romeo Dobbs, at the end because the team likes him. So he's going to play a lot of snaps. And so he adds that kind of security to your team. So he's fine. I prefer to take Romeo Dobbs in like a best ball format.
Mm-hmm. Same. Someone doesn't like that answer.
Yeah, that's okay.
Boo. Sniper Brown is not happy. So Frank, being involved in all the sports and stuff like that, how about for you personally? Do you have any daily routine you do like as in your personal life? Do you do any sports? Do you go out and like take care of your personal health?
Yeah, so lately I've been trying to do 10,000 steps a day. I got one of those Samsung watches. It's nice. It's motivating seeing the steps on the watch. I like numbers and seeing like it move up. It kind of motivates. I've been slacking. I should go to the gym more. I'm going to try to do that, but trying to be active is especially important when you're working remotely from home because it's very sedentary lifestyle. Sometimes I even sit down on the couch writing. It's not really good to do that if you're not getting physical activity. So my girlfriend encourages me a lot to do more of that. And I have been. So it's just really important to try to keep that daily physical activity for sure. But before you get to the next question, I just got to run to get the chargers at 1%. My computer.
Okay, that's awesome.
Sorry, very sorry about this.
You're fine. While you're out there, I'm going to say thank you to Hope. I'm wearing a Hope shirt. Look at that.
Nice.
It's my Chiefs shirt. So
let's see the back.
A Chiefs.
Nice.
So if you don't love Chiefs, well, I don't care. I do. I love Chiefs. So I'm wearing Hope tonight. And I hope I just love
I love your hair like that.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You look so pretty. I love it.
It's my anniversary tonight. I should be pretty. Waiting for
You're
that.
Always pretty.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, what do you think about Frank? He's not here right now. We can talk about him.
I think he's awesome. I want to pick his brain.
I think that too. That's amazing. I love how he's talking. It's really interesting that some people are talking a lot about football and stuff like that, and I'm learning so much about like fantasy football, drafting, and best ball sites and stuff like that. It's really amazing. It's mesmerizing. It is. It's so smart, Sniper Model. Yeah, it is.
I hope we didn't lose
totally
him.
agree. I
think
totally agree with you.
Do you think we lost him?
Yeah, I think he's out, and JC will definitely like put him in into this again. So we're gonna talk a little bit about drafting as well. Hope, you were talking a little bit about some of your drafts. How many teams do you have, and how many?
Boy, it keeps growing. I think I'm up to. It was supposed to be. I promised it was going to be 5, but now I think that it's 8.
8 teams. That's
8.
crazy. Greg
Too
is
many.
telling me I need to play once, and I'm like, no, I'm not. No,
Very
no,
sorry about
I'm with
that.
Frank. No, I'm with Frank's girlfriend. I'm not playing Greg. I love it. I'm away from fantasy football.
Frank,
Welcome back.
I need to know
Sorry,
your.
I thought the charger was downstairs, so I ran downstairs, and it was here all along, right in this room, and then the computer died. Sorry about that.
You're fine. We love you still.
I want to know your spiciest hot take.
Spiciest hot take. This one is not like it's not like I think it like it. I think there's a chance it could happen, and I did place a bet on it because it was 70-1 odds, which means, for those who don't know, if you put $10, it pays 700. So this is a hot take. Ezekiel Elliott leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns. So basically, Tony Pollard last season was second in the NFL in red zone rushing attempts, but he only had 6 touchdowns. Tony Pollard struggled in short yardage. So the Cowboys went and brought Zeke back. Now Zeke is well past his prime, but what does he still do decently? And that's run up the middle and get the short yards. So I feel like the Cowboys brought Zeke back to emphasize him in the red zone because that's where his skill set allows right now. And 70-1 odds, worth a little sprinkle if you're into betting, but
I'll take that.
You may think that's crazy, and it's crazy. But 2 years ago, did you think Jamal Williams was going to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns?
Nope.
He rushed for 17. So the Cowboys' offense is really good. They're going to be in the red zone often. So it's worth a gamble. And a hot take is supposed to be a bold prediction, so it is a crazy one. But I did place a small bet, tiny bet on that 70-1 odds.
You could sprinkle a little on Donta Foreman getting a lot of touchdowns.
If Nick Chubb doesn't come back, maybe.
Yep. Aw, my husband loves me.
With what? Media.
Oh, I see it now. Vidal, Wright, and Corum 2 will be starting by the end of the season. I think I could see Vidal. Corum, I could only see if Kyron Williams gets injured. And Wright, I feel like he could be if Mostert missed time, Wright would be in a committee with HN. So, to answer it, I would disagree, but I like all 3 of those picks in fantasy. They're worth taking a shot. Wright, Vidal, and Corum.
I want to know who do you have, Drake London or Devontae Adams?
Okay, so for me, even though obviously Devontae Adams is way more proven than Drake London, I'm going Drake London because I'm really high on the Falcons offense with Kirk Cousins there and with Zach Robinson calling the plays instead of Arthur Smith. Drake London he's shown that he can earn targets at a high rate in his first 2 seasons. Like, he had a target share over 25%, which is good because when we look at receivers, we want to look at receivers who are able to dominate targets, and London did that at a young age. Now, I think the Falcons will be way more pass heavy than the Raiders will, and Kirk Cousins is a much better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. Falcons, like James is saying, have an awesome O-line, and they have an easy schedule. They play indoors. Well, so do the Raiders, but basically, I like London more just because I trust the Falcons' offense more.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I don't. The only thing that I'm up and down, because when you see both names and you're getting ready to pick, I love Drake London. I have him on my on one of my dynasty teams. I traded actually for him. So I do love him, but I feel like there's so many mouths to feed there, and we can't. So we have Pitts going. We have Bijan could be. We feel he could be the RB1, which I do. I believe that. Then we have Darnell Mooney there, who I think is. I like Darnell Mooney a lot. There's a lot there. So Minshew is going to target the hell out of Devontae Adams. It's him and Myers. Who else is there?
Well, Brock Bowers is really good tight end prospect. He could earn a bunch of targets.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but for me, my counter is I don't think Darnell Mooney will take away too much targets. He'll just be like sort of like a deep threat. But I do get it if you prefer Adams, because you're gonna look at it just this way. You could be like, Devontae Adams has been an elite producer for years now, and Drake London, despite his potential, despite him being a high first round pick, he hasn't done it yet. So
Yep.
I get it if you want to go with Adams. It just personally, I think London's ready for that breakout season, and I think Devontae Adams. You also have the risk, he is getting older, so there could be a slight decline. There's always a risk of that. But for me, I go London, but I get it if you prefer Adams.
I don't know. I'm asking you because I don't know. If I had to probably choose quickly, I probably would go Devontae Adams, only because I feel like he's just such a stud. Not that I don't know if Drake London's a stud, but we know that Devontae Adams is a stud. So
it's a good point. It is a good point.
If I had to quickly say, I would probably have to go Devontae Adams, only because of the upside that he has as being such a brilliant player. But who knows? Like, I just was curious what you thought.
Yeah, no, it's a good point you make for sure. And honestly, a lot of the flaws that those who make content in fantasy have is we kind of get excited about, myself included, we get excited about these really young, talented players, and then we end up taking them too high over a more established veteran. So I totally understand if you go Adams, but I'm willing to roll the dice on London. I could see that Falcons offense being quite good with Kirk Cousins.
Same. Agree.
So, Frank, before we finish our episode for tonight, I can't believe it's it's 1 hour already. I want to ask you, if you could have one superpower, but it had to be useless, what would it be?
One superpower, but it had to be. That's going to be hard to think on the spot.
Yeah.
Useless and like, do you have an example? Someone has said it could help me think of an idea.
I mean, some people said, like, I don't know. Yeah, superpower, but it has to be useless. Like, you cannot use it.
Oh, I can't use it. I thought you mean useless,
No.
like it's meaningless.
Yeah, it's useless. You can't use it. Like maybe I don't know, maybe laser, but it's useless. You cannot use it. What would it be? Maybe like you have laser eyes, or like maybe you cannot like be seen or something like that, but you're gonna be seen because it's gonna be useless.
You mean like I Dream of Jeannie when she used to twinkle her nose?
Like
that was Bewitched.
I don't know, being able to. How about like being able to predict the future, but it's useless because you only have it in a dream, and then you forget the dream, so you don't even know anyway. How about
That's a good one.
So entertaining.
I like
dream.
that one. So that'd be a good one to be able to predict fantasy football things.
Yeah. But then when you wake up, you don't remember the dream.
You don't remember it. That makes sense. Thank you so much. Hope, you want to take us home?
So I had such a good time with you.
Well, thank you
so much for joining us. It was beautiful getting to know you. I'm going to definitely be following everything. Can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm active on X at AMMIRANTE Same account on Instagram and TikTok. I haven't really posted there, but I'll be meaning to. And at thegameday.com, I have all my fantasy football rankings and all that content. We also have a newsletter. You could find me all my work there. James had a question. Did it say like favorite spot where you can clear your mind? A quiet room in my house, basically. I don't really go like drive to the park, or maybe a walk around the neighborhood. Somewhere quiet would be where clear my mind. But I digress. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our wonderful viewers for tonight, for honoring us with their presence. Their support is greatly appreciated. We would also like to express yet again our sincere thanks for the Sports Affiliation for providing us with an exceptional platform to share our authentic stories and experiences. We invite you to join us next week on the Game Changers, Wednesday, August 28th, where we will welcome Lisa Ann as our special guest. Tune in. Do not forget that. A special acknowledgement due to JC for his invaluable contributions behind the scenes. Your efforts are deeply appreciated, JC. Thank you. Do not forget to click this button. Click like button, follow.
Right, didn't ask you about Monty.
We will see you next week.
Next time.
Have a good night. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Hope. We will see you next week. Bye.